it's Karen from Liongate Farm, and we're going to continue our little felting videos this week with another Christmas idea. This is a little penguin, which can sit on the table or it can become an ornament. It's another one of my very popular little items. And let me show you how to make him. He's pretty quick. All right, so today we're gonna make this cute little penguin. Everybody loves penguins. You can make him with the hat, without the hat, with the tie, without the tie. If you wanna make him into an ornament, you just string them up. You're gonna need core wool. You're gonna need white. You can see there's a big difference between the core wool and the white. You need a tiny bit of orange, just for his little beak, a little bit of red for his hat, a little bit of pink for his cheeks. Obviously you need black. So, and then you'll need, if you're gonna have a tie, you're gonna want a little piece of ribbon that will go around his neck, or this is a little bit of baker's twine. And then I have 3 different needles here. I have a 36 triangle, I have a 38 star spiral, and then I have a 38 star. I have my handy dandy pen tool with 2 needles. This multi-tool with 7 needles makes finishing go really fast on this. And then some scissors to trim your ribbon. Okay, so let's get started. And we'll stick him right there. So the first thing you're gonna do is build his body. And, you know, sometimes you end up with excess scraps. You know, like I have this scrap of white or any scraps. You can wad them up in here if you don't want to use them for something else. Because sometimes I do that to get rid of my pieces. Wad it up tight. We're rolling it. This is the center of his body. I mean really tight. This is way tight. See, it doesn't even squish. Then we're going to stab it. First shape we're going to make is a little bit like an egg. A fat little egg. And you know, you can make these small. You can make them bigger. This guy's about 3.5 inches tall. About. Now I have some more core wool here. This piece just happened to be a nice big bat piece. So I'm going to tear it down a little bit. See, I have some of those scraps. So, like, these are little scraps. You can wad these up inside your project. And I'm going to draft this out a little bit. We want the bottom to be fatter than the top. Again, the tighter you wrap it, the less stabbing you're going to have to do. And sometimes that's the trick. This is a fast little project. I'm using the 38 star. It's a medium fast felting needle. And you can see it's pushing it right in. I'm not opting for the 36 needle right now because it's actually too tight for that and it wouldn't go very far. But you can see how tight I'm making this. It doesn't have a lot of give. I'm going to do another layer. This is kind of like making those Easter eggs that we did earlier. Okay, so that's probably going to be fat enough at the bottom. So now I'm going to angle it up. Remember, when you're wrapping, always keep it nice and flat. Keeps your finished product from being lumpy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stab until I get this into a nice round egg shape. I'm making this portion. So I'll just get this all nice and finished. The smoother you make this, the smoother your top coat will go on. Okay, I've been stepping on this for about 5 minutes, and you can see I have this nice egg shape, about the same size as this guy. And now we're going to add his little tail. So for that, you just need a little piece of core wool, just like this. And as in the past, okay, so we want a tail. The tail is a little triangle. So I always just draw a little triangle, angles there. We're gonna fold it in. We're gonna fold this back. This is all fringy down here. Leave this all fringy. Remember to flip it over a little bit. And this piece, just pick a spot. Pick a spot, any spot. It's going to adhere to the bottom. You can use that fringe to stab it on. I like to make it curve up a little bit right here so that you get that little curve. It'll fill in with color when we put the color on here next. So you're just going to stab all this on until it's nice and smooth. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add his white. That's our next step. So get your white out and get it ready. And I'll just keep stabbing this on. Okay, so I've got his tail all stabbed on. And I've stabbed a little bit in here. He has just a little tiny tail. If you want it to go up, we can make it go up. So the next thing we're going to do is add white. I have a little piece here. And the first thing, you got to find center, so to the tail. So just kind of stab a little line so you know where the center is. And then we're going to take our white and we are going to come down. There is a piece of black in there. And we're going to come down both sides. Just stab it on loose right now, so you know how much you're going to need. And then you can take another piece. We're going to go all the way back to his tail, because what you're going to get is you're going to take it all the way back here. So you're coming down along the side. And you can coat his tail right now. We're just putting this on. I like to get it all kind of stabbed on just a little bit. The outline anyways. All right, so we have that, and we're going to fill in the belly part. Piece. This doesn't have to be super thick, because remember, the more you add, the thicker your project will get. So once we have it all on here, we're just going to go around and use your if you have one of these, this will make it go way faster. I tend to use my single needle. I'm old school. This is called Snow. It's made by DHG. I carry it in my shop. It's the best white. It goes on so fast, felt so easy. So as you work down, remember that center line you found, center to the tail, because we need to show where that's going to go. So you kind of got a little spot. You're going to come down about 1 inch. It's going to be I like to draw where the black's gonna go. There's another black hair in there. So you can see what I'm doing here. So that's where the black's gonna go. And you have these arches for his eyes. Because I get impatient, I want to see what my guy's gonna look like. So his eyes are probably gonna be right there in the middle. You don't have to stab these in a lot. It's just your lines. And we can always add white if we didn't put enough in there. So then I'm going to keep stabbing and get all this in and smooth. It's going to take a bit of stabbing. Okay, so I've been poking at this white for about 15 minutes. I have my edges all nice and tight. I've added a bunch on here, but see, it's all nice and smooth, and that's thanks to this guy after I got it all on there. So this is where I'm going to add the black that will come down to his beak, and this is going to be his eyes. So we're going to take some black. And kind of like we did the tail, you know, you draw a line. I like to make a nice sharp line right here. So I'm drawing a line, and then I'm going to pull these fibers back up. When I do these penguins, I'm super persnickety about the black fibers being in the black zone. So I'm following my lines that I have. I'm not worried about this yet. I'm just worrying about this center spot. I like this area to be nice and sharp. You can stab this on. So basically you're just going to fill in this whole space. Same way, we're just going to lay it on here. Kind of like we put the white on, except now we're going up next to the white. I'm following that line because I already know where it's going to go. Just a little bit at a time. Remember, you can always add. You can't take away. As long as you can't see your core wool, you're good. So back here for the tail, just come around. Don't worry about the top of the tail yet. So the black I'm using is Corriedale. If you have black merino, this is going to take you a long time. It's going to take a lot of poking. Corriedale goes way faster. And then with merino, you probably want to switch to a higher number of needles when you're getting to the smoothing part so you don't see the holes. So here's his little tail. You see I have a bare spot. We're going to cover this up. And I don't worry if this tail gets a little bit fat. So it's a lot thicker than it was. try not to stab all the way through the tail, or that will happen. I felt it go through because your black will go down into your white, and you don't want that to happen. And we're going to talk about that more when we do the wings, because the wings have white. I just don't like that I can see the core wool, so I'm adding little bits. So I'm just going to keep adding in this black until he's totally covered, and then we will start his wings. Once you get all your black all on and stabbed in, I want you to be super persnickety and go around and make sure all your black fibers are tucked in to your white. You don't want little fibers getting into your white, because it makes them look gray. You just want it nice and sharp along here. So take the extra time, go nice and slow. Remember, you don't have to poke very deep when you're doing that. You're just catching those extra fibers. All right, so his eyes are going to be right in here. So we know that his eyes are there. Now let's make his wings first before we do the fun stuff. So you need a piece of black like that, 2 pieces of black. And just like his tail, this is hard to see on black, we're gonna make 2 little wings. They're little kind of long triangles. Fringe up here, just like normal. And I want you to work these over pretty good so that they're pretty firm. This is where this tool may come in handy. They're not very big because they end up being, just about 1 inch with the fringe. The fringe is a little bit more, but the finished part is about 1 inch. Be careful when you work the edges, because you're working them between your fingers. So you have this wing, but you want the next wing to be the same size. So take the first one and trace it on your fiber. So you have your little lines, and then have at it. They don't have to be exact, but close. You want them close. Turn it often so that it gets nice and smooth. If you're doing merino, this is going to take a while. I'm not anti-merino. I just like to go fast, and merino goes slow, and it leaves holes. I mean, you can use it and it looks good. It just takes longer. It does come in way more colors, I do have to say. Stab myself. See, I didn't use this on this one, and you can see it's a little fuzzier. Okay, we're going to do the edges. Now, if you want to be super picky, you can take your scissors and cut off all the little hairs and not worry about. And don't cut too deep. You're just trying to trim off just the fuzzies. Okay, so next we're going to put this white in here. Notice it, you don't want it to come through too much. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Shallow stabbing. Let's get some black out of here first. So you need two pieces that are going to end up smaller than your wing. Again, same technique. Just draw. So that's going to be the inside of his wing. Now, I'm not stabbing this a lot. I'm just going to do a little bit of poking there. A little bit of poking on this side because I don't want it firmly felted, because I want the fibers that are here to be able to go in. Now, try not, you're going to, remember, only this much of your needle works. So you don't need to go far. You're trying to go into the shallow part of the wing. You can see I'm barely stabbing it in, because those fibers that I left loose are helping it adhere. Now, some are going to go through no matter what. And I'll show you what to do with that. Again, I'm persnickety about the white and the black. So just barely attaching that. Now, when you flip it over, you can say, oh, look, there's some white fibers. So if you take your needle, you can tuck them back in sideways. Just tuck them sideways, because you don't want to go through, because then you'll have black in your white. So you can see it's just barely adhered. And then we're gonna, so we know that the eyes are here. His beak's gonna be there. We want to be a little bit lower. And I'm gonna scrunch him up a little. Now, wait a minute, I have too much white. I don't want that to show. I want it to go to the back a little bit. Tuck it in. If I get too much white up here, I'll add a little piece of black. I'm just tucking the top. So I'm going to take a little tiny piece of black and just use it as a little bit of a blender. Might help if you have super bright light. It's hard for me to work with black because my old eyes. Has to be pretty bright. See, I'm still tucking in some of those little white patches. So then there we have this little white underneath. We're going to do another one. Again, this white DHG, it just felt like nobody's business. It's like it's done. I'm going to add it onto this guy. Now that looks messy, doesn't it? Let's just straighten it up a little bit. Remember, stab nice and shallow. We all like to hear the needle go into the felting pad, but it is not necessary. And then see, I have a few white strands that came through. Let's just hide those. And then we're going to put this one on over here. Again, I have too much white. Take it off. Or just fold it down a little bit. Okay, make it even with your one on the other side. Again, scrunch it up. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm scrunching it so that there's like a pleat in the middle. A little sewing term. And I'm gonna tuck that white in. So you can see his little wings, and I'm going to use a little bit more black over the top here as a blender. Just helps make it look finished, like it's all one piece. Whenever you put on ears or anything like that, it's a good idea to add the blender. And there's his little wings. So next thing we're going to do is add some eyeballs. You need equal pieces of black and just make little balls. Kind of want them the same size. We'll see how these come out. I have a feeling one's bigger than the other. I like the eyes to be even with where the beak's going to go. What I like and what actually happens, only the wool knows. So now we're going to make a beak. You really don't need a lot of fiber for a beak. It's a pretty thin amount. It's probably like a good inch. And again, this is all about triangles today. Draw your little beak. Turn it in. Now this time we are going to turn everything. We're not going to leave any fringe. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but this beak is triangular all the way around the block. It's a triangle here, but it's flat. It's a triangle here, and it is firm. So I start to work that shape on the felting pad. So the bottom is going to be the bottom. Notice I haven't turned it at all. And it's pretty loose. Because I like to firm it up on the bird. All right, middle's going to be there. So I'm tacking the back on. See, it looks like a mess right now. And I'm going to squeeze it to start to build this triangle. This ridge of his beak. Notice I'm not working the bottom of it yet. Just working the two sides to the middle. Leaving the bottom. Now we'll work the bottom here. Be careful you don't stab your fingers. You can see it didn't take much fiber at all. go to the 38 star spiral because it leaves smaller holes and it goes in better. That's what spiral needles do. They don't leave big holes. It's okay if this starts to look a little bit hollow. A little bit lopsided. I need to stab it a little bit more there. Because you want to stop and look at every once in a while. But you can see it's getting tighter and tighter. And turning more into a triangle. You probably could build this whole thing on your felting pad, but I just think this is the easier way. Now, I know penguins don't really have smiles, but mine do. I like to build in this little divot right here on either side of his beak with a teeny bit of black. So if you just take your needle, actually this is where the 36 is going to come in handy. This is what's going to make it whimsical. So you can already see he's starting to smile. Take a few black fibers, very few. You just want a suggestion of a smile. Poke it in along the bottom of his beak. I don't feel like his nose is tight enough yet. And then, because everything has to have pink cheeks that I do, I take just a hair, a little bit of pink, just a little bit. You want to be able to see the white through it. Now, if you want him as an everyday penguin, he's pretty much done. But I like to dress him up for the holidays, especially if he's going to go on a Christmas tree. So he has his little pink cheeks. So take your little ribbon that you have here. You can go over the wings. I always like it to be off to the side. Don't know why. Tie it right here. This is cool ribbon because it has kind of green in it. I don't like what that did. There. So you can add a bell right here if you want. So now there's your little Christmas guy, but let's make him a hat. Let's make him a hat. I'm gonna take a little bit of red, a little bit. You don't need much. Me and my triangles, make a little triangle, fold it in. The hat can be tall, it can be short. We're gonna fold it all in. Then I'll show you a hat trick here, my little hat trick. So we have a little triangle. And get up here on the corner, on the top. And I want you to start twisting. This is how to make a fast little hat. I know right now it looks too tall, right? Well, it's because we're going to go like this and do this. Let's tuck this in. 36 is going to be better. So when you have super loose fibers, a lower number needle will make them go faster. This is how I make all my elf hats. Just keep rolling it around till it's nice and hat shaped. Cone shaped. You're working for a cone. I'm probably going to cut that top piece off. We don't need it. Well, do we want it that big? Maybe. Okay, you can also take them and rub them in your hand. Yeah, I'm going to cut that piece off. All right, so I don't want it that tall. I only want it this tall. Scissors are your friend. Okay, so we have this little cone-shaped hat. We're going to take a little bit of white. Oh, look, I have some with sparkles here. And I'm going to make a little ball. I think last week we made hats. Did we make hats last week? And I made this little ball. Right, put it in there. You don't ever want your balls to be, you want them fluffy because it's pom-pom. And then we're going to poke it on his head. I know you're saying, but there's white around it. We'll put white around it in just a second. First attach his hat. I hate when their hats come off. I mean, if you wanted just a red hat, you could do that. But I like, take some white. Because I don't like to poke this very much. I like it to be fluffy. Wrap it around. Now we're going to go under. A bit up here. Just got back from the Black Sheep gathering. We had a great weekend. I met a lot of you. That was really fun. It's really fun to meet you guys that are doing my videos. Our sheep did really well in the show ring. And my felting did really well. So it was a good weekend all the way around. And there you have it. Oh, so the other thing I did on this guy is I put little white dots in his eye to give him a little highlight. Now you can cheat and do it with paint. Just a little teeny dot of white paint, which is way easier than what we're going to do here. Or you can just take a little white ball, stab it in until it's tiny. There's one. Again, this is another one of my super popular ornaments for the holiday sales. Who doesn't like a penguin at holidays? And then, you know, after I'm done, I go around and touch them up just a little bit. Make sure everything's all tucked in. And there you have it. Now we have 2 little penguins. So you might want to put a little, since he's round in this bow, you might want to put a little dot of glue under here, or just take a little tiny bit of red fiber and tuck it in. It will hold this down. Whatever color ribbon you're using, nobody will even know it's there. There you go. 1 little penguin.